I'm John.
I'm Rob.
And this is the Mint One podcast,
where we talk all things NFTs and the rise of blockchain gaming.
So Rob, we made some predictions at the end of last year.
Yeah, let's get into them and then make some new ones.
So yes, our long-awaited 2021 predictions recap episode that we've mentioned quite a few times in the past few episodes of the pod. How do you think your predictions went last year, Rob? Do you think you were on the money? Do you think you were miles off? What are your thoughts?
So we got one prediction absolutely spot on, 100% perfect. Did you know that?
No, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, we got one absolutely on the nose. So well done us. It's that we said that all of our other predictions were going to be very wrong. So at least we have self-awareness.
That's very true. Very true. We weren't as egotistical to say we could predict the future. And I think going over these predictions will make it very, very clear we're hopeless at predicting anything.
Yes.
So do you just want to dive straight into them?
Well, I guess we should. Firstly, we're drinking. We should probably flag that up. So, Merry Christmas. Ooh.
Merry Christmas. How is this going to...
Cheers. Yeah, there we go.
Let's not pour that all over my camera. That could go badly.
Oh, that's too strong, for sure.
Good start.
Yeah.
Good start.
So, it was kind of horrible listening, to be honest. I really didn't enjoy any of it. I realised that my demeanour, my mood, is dictated by the crypto industry as a whole, and that, like, my mood is like the average of everyone's mood in crypto. So last year I was just so positive, and so hopeful. And this year I'm like, oh, you sweet summer child. That's all going horrendously wrong within probably 3 months of recording that. 2 months maybe.
Yeah, no, I made it a lot easier to listen to by playing it at 2 times speed.
Yeah.
I listened to the first 10 minutes normally. I was like, oh my God, this is too bad. I've got to get through this.
I needed more than 2x, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the general gist is I think we ended last year feeling very hopeful that we'd have a really positive year ahead, and this was just the start, and there's so much more to come. And sitting here today, about a year into a bear market, I think our general outlook is going to be very different this time around. But that's not to say that all of this year's been negative.
No,
though.
well, I was going to say. So next week we're going to do a 22 wrap up, right? Where we'll discuss everything that's happened this year, and I think that'll be quite a positive episode. If you don't focus too much on price, there's been a lot of good stuff that's happened this year. So next week will probably be more positive. My predictions, I can imagine, will be reasonably negative. And after listening to last year, the thing is, I don't remember being that positive.
Me neither.
When I listened to it back, I was like, I thought, it must have been a different episode, but I remember saying to you, in a year's time, we'll probably still be at 20 cents, because that's the price that WAXP was kind of stuck at for so long. Yeah. It obviously wasn't that episode. I said it at some point, but I mean, I was, some way off.
Speaking of which, do we want to get into that prediction? Because
I
think
let's just get them out of the way.
I think it's one of the most inaccurate ones we gave. So, at the time we recorded the predictions episode last year, WAX was at 45 cents. And the first... But
it had just come off the back of, 98 cents?
98 times, all-time high, I think, 3-4 weeks prior. So one of our questions was, what do you think the price of WAX will be at the end of 2022? Rob, you said it'd be $2.90.
Can I caveat this?
Yes, go on.
I did say $2.90, but I'm glad when I said it, I unpacked it a little bit. So the reason I said that is, I don't know why I was so secretive, but I think it was because we were trying to be WAX only for a bit, weren't we? So I think I was a bit secretive about other chains and stuff, but the chain I was talking about before I said my price prediction was Engine. So I bought Engine and WAX in 2018 for almost the same price. And then Engine went to something like $3.65. Yep. So I had seen those sort of gains. And I stand by this part. I will stand by this part. I think what Wax had done in that time and what Engine had done in that time, Wax blew Engine out of the water.
Yeah.
So so objectively on stats alone, I couldn't see how Wax didn't do the same thing as Engine. So I said $2.90 because I think that's roughly what Engine was at that time. And I was like, if you just look at like, you know, they had 10 million wallets, it was the most used blockchain, it had all these mainstream adoption examples and bringing on IPs and everything was so exciting. I was like, and Engine hasn't done anywhere near that amount. So how does it not hit the same price? But I did say, that I wrote this down, to mitigate my failure. I said $2.90 would require real growth in crypto, similar to what we've seen in 2021, which we
definitely haven't
had. Not really. So brutally wrong, completely and utterly. I mean, are we still below 5 cents?
I believe we're below. I've put 5 cents, but I think it's 0.04.
Just go check CoinMarketCap
or something like that. Well, yeah, you said $2.90. I said between $1.90 and $2. And I also predicted that it would be a top 50 crypto. I believe it's currently just below 5 cents and it's ranking 160th. So we were both way off the mark for that. I mean, do we want to, other than the wider bear market, do you think there's any reasons as to why that's been the case this year?
With Wax specifically?
Yeah.
So I was flip-flopping between two opinions when I was listening to it. On the one side, I am critical of Wax in terms of the moves they made. It felt like towards the start of 2022, before the bear market really set in, they were really pulling back. They weren't doing the full core press that they had been doing. They weren't onboarding as many brands. It didn't feel like they were. The number of wallets slowed right down. I wanted them to push on more than they did. But then I started to look at stats for other major chains. And even if you look at things like Polygon, we'll do this in the yearly wrap up, but just to explain my position, if you look at Polygon, they have done a ton of very, very good pushes this year, and they've basically suffered a very similar fate in terms of decline in numbers and struggles. So although I think Wax could have done more, I don't think you can really blame anyone that's still afloat that hasn't defrauded people at this point. Like, that is how low the bar is to you've done decently well this year, is you just haven't collapsed and defrauded.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts then on this year?
Well, listening over our predictions episode, which is episode 6, if anyone wants to go back and listen to it, we were talking so much about all of these major IPs that have come to Wax, all of these upcoming games and upcoming partnerships, and there's been much less of that this year. And not to say that that's solely the reason why, but I mean, for example, we were talking about, you know, Topps NFTs being on Wax. We're talking about Pierce Brosnan and Platon. We're talking about Hot Wheels. And I believe all 3/4 of those are now away from Wax and on different chains. Hot Wheels has just gone to Flow. I think Topps is doing their own thing, if I remember correctly. And Legend has just signed a deal with Polygon. So we're seeing, firstly, I think less major IP releases on Wax, but also the ones that are here are testing out, trying their chances elsewhere, which is taking, active users with it. And I think on that, we also made a prediction that's kind of related to the price, I would say, is that at the end of 2021, there was 10 million Wax wallets, and we both made a prediction of how many there'd be at the end of 2022.
I made two predictions. I think you got me excited. Because my first prediction, I thought, oh, okay, you tapered that a little bit. That's all right. And then my second prediction, I think I just got excited throughout the pod with all the stats we'd said.
That probably explains it. There's no real accurate, or nowhere that I could find publicly that has an accurate count of how many Wax wallets there are today.
I found it.
Oh, you have found it?
As of December the 13th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We'll save that reveal. So,
okay. So there were 10 million at the end of 2021. Rob, you first predicted 30 million and then predicted 61 million. And then followed that up by saying, I quote, I wouldn't be surprised if I've lowballed those numbers.
I definitely caveated that in some stats, but the reason I picked 61 is just to screw you if it was higher.
Yeah.
So that I had control over everything above 61 million. But when I said 30 million, because you said 50 and I said 30.
50 to 60, yeah.
Yeah, and then you said 60, so I said 61. Do you know what? Do you want to have a guess what the actual number is?
Around 15 million. That's a complete guess.
13.
Oh, it's still 13.
Yeah. I mean, when they added that little price gate to get a Wax wallet, obviously there's other ways of getting it where you don't have to pay anything, but that it was obviously to stop the bot accounts, and I think that really did impact the number, which raises the question, how many were bot accounts for the first 10 million, which I know a lot of people have asked about just about anything in crypto. You have to ask that question.
Oh, of course.
But then, so you could say, so they've only done 3 million this year. It's actually not that bad, given how bad the market's been, how receded everything has been, and how few players and like the games. I think that's what I was most disappointed about. Is last year I only vaguely remember how I felt about it, but hearing me talk about the games that were coming to Wax, and I knew there was a ton of rumors that I couldn't say back then, and now I can't remember who the rumors were even about, but. Basically none of it came true. I think none of the rumors came to fruition.
Yeah, we talked about a whole bunch of things that have either not happened or kind of half happened and not in the way we expected. We mentioned a few times about the partnership with Binance and how my god, you'll be able to pull all of your Wax NFTs across to BSC, and what it ended up being was just the blockchain ballers that were sold on BNB able to be kind of bridged across to Wax, which I mean, if it's only one project and it's only a certain type of NFT, was very different to what we had in mind. Yeah, when we were talking about that kind of bridge. So,
and Binance themselves haven't done particularly well in the gaming sector. I don't think they've sought it out really, or if they have, they failed. But I don't think they have. I don't think they've really pursued gaming that much, and they haven't got many games. So even if that bridge would have been the best bridge ever built between two chains, I don't think it would have meant anything. I don't think it would have changed anything, because there's not really been any incredible solo chain projects on either of those chains that would have used the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, it's towards the end of 2021, it seemed like Binance was growing and growing quickly in blockchain gaming. That just seems to have slowed to a halt this year. I will say we kind of had the same feeling about Wax at the end of 2021, is that, oh my god, there's all these amazing cool games coming, and there has been certainly some better games become playable on Wax this year. You've got Warsaken Blitz, you've got kind of what I would call clicker plus games where they have some gameplay but still basically clickers. You've got Alien Worlds, which now has their syndicates and is more of like a community based game, which is interesting. Even Blockchain Ballers, which is, I mean, there are many different opinions about Blockchain Ballers for sure, but you can't argue that at the core of it they have made an intriguing game that incorporates tokens and assets from the Wax blockchain. So
it made a bit of a splash. I mean, it got a lot of press. Mainly, Richard Garfield and Magic the Gathering, and then obviously Michael Ribinelli, the two big names in gaming that drew some press. I'd love to see its player numbers. It still feels, obviously, we are ambassadors for the game, although we don't really do anything on that front. I'm not sure what we're meant to do, but there doesn't feel like that many players.
No.
Still feels like quite low players, which, I mean, that's not indicative of if the game is good, but I would have hoped to have seen more adoption than we've seen, but it's still very early days. So, maybe they can attract more. I don't think any blockchain game has really exploded. I remember one thing I wrote down is that, it's about Alien Worlds. Yeah, I said I was really impressed with Alien Worlds because of how consistent it had been for so long. Mm-hmm. I think that's still true. I think it's still being consistent.
Alien Worlds has incredibly just been definitely the most consistent blockchain gaming project I think at all over the past several years.
Yep.
I mean, we on NFT Insider every month we publish the top 5 NFT sales on Wax, and I think at least for the past 2 months the top 5 have all been Alien Worlds NFTs.
Yeah,
and they just continue to have this presence in the space, unlike any other project. I mean, if you discount Farmers World, which I will do because they're a rug pull.
We need to discuss Farmers World.
We do. If we discard them, Alien Worlds is the largest project on the Wax chain by far. In terms of volume, anyway. I think their current volume is about 210 million Wax, which is incredible. Especially because they've been going for so long. You know, we've seen so many games be like in the moment, flash of the pan things where, you know, they're around for 3 months and then they make a change and the players go away, or they jump to another game, or it turns out to be a rug pull, or whatever the case may be. And Alien Worlds has persistently been there or thereabouts within the upper echelons of what's on Wax for the past few years.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Alien Worlds. I've said I don't find the game that engaging. It's not really for me, I don't think. But I say the same things all the time. Firstly, it's a use case and a very good one for blockchain gaming economies. And they've kind of pioneered the space, and they've been involved in a lot of major things. They seem to have reinvested a lot of the profits into fleshing out different ideas and concepts. And what I like about them is they're still innovating with the whole, the way I can't remember what the actual, it's syndicates, but I can't remember the, term they use, but it's kind of like clan wars, which is really, really cool the way they're doing that. So one thing I did say, do you know what I'm very pleased with myself about? And it really is, it's a very low level win, is that I picked my words carefully. Yeah. I always try and pick my words carefully. I said that Wax looked as if they were objectively going to be involved in blockchain gaming, given their growth and involvement. And I was right. It did objectively look like that, but it objectively did not go that way. So I'm very glad I picked my words carefully, and it's hard to know. So we were wrong about a lot of stuff, but I really think, like, you agreed with me at the time when I said this all hinges on seeing a 2022 that's similar to 2021 in terms of growth. Yeah. I think that really does change everything. I mean, if we had have seen that, I have no idea where we would have been right now. But instead, we saw, really, we just lurched from catastrophe to catastrophe for the entire year, which, you know, we'll get into next week. But I remember, this is one thing I said, which is definitely true, is I said it was riskier to predict 2022 than it is 2030. And I stand by that, because, and I said, crypto's so volatile. You just don't know where it's going to go. And we have seen that, I mean, en masse. Like, I remember saying that if we saw an event like Axi's adoption, who knows where we'd end up? And we did see events of that scale, but in the wrong direction, unfortunately. Yeah.
It seems the last few months in particular has just been kind of a cavalcade of one bad news topic after another.
But not just like little things, like truly catastrophic collapses in on itself. So it is, I'd be impressed if anyone, the thing is, if you predicted correctly this time last year, if you made predictions for this year and you were pretty close to right, I have two observations about the person that, well, if there was somebody, one, you would have been slammed as a naysayer, at the time. And two, unless you included things like, FTX books don't look right, or, Luna's not functioning properly, it can't maintain a peg. Unless you knew those things, then you were just blindly, you were probably had the guess with less evidence than we did. Our guesses were, like, we were wrong. I'm absolutely not saying wrong, that. Yeah. We were massively wrong. But our opinions, we weren't doing what Peter Schiff does, which is just like, it's Bitcoin's fake money, it's just going to crash. Yeah. And then when it crashes, he's like, look, see? But when it goes up, he's quiet. He's not, I mean, he's a very clever guy. I'm not laying into him too much, but sure. What I mean is, if you were to have predicted the prices correctly, you either are a genius that knows the industry at a level that few do, and very impressive, or you were a naysayer that didn't have much evidence, because 2021 was evidence that we were going to see continued growth as we saw mainstream adoption. But it didn't go that way. So I think we were in a bit of a rough position trying to predict where we'd be in a year.
Yeah, and I think, as you've said, with the volatility of the crypto space in general, it's impossible to accurately predict these things. I mean, even if it had been a continued bull market this year rather than a bear, I think we still would have been wildly off with our predictions. So it's I do want to point out something that was mentioned in the predictions episode last year. In that, I believe it was you, Rob, that said this. You said there were three kings of blockchain games: WAX, BSC, and Hive. And I think if there's one thing that's come out this year, it's the rise of Polygon and Immutable X.
Polygon is so I love Polygon. It's a rise as a prospect at the moment. I don't think they've actually established themselves yet, but they have laid arguably the best foundations to do so in the next 5 years. Yeah. I imagine when I went off of WAX, BSC and Polygon, that was off I actually remember what did that. It was two things. One was the DApp Radar report, end of year report, which I read very carefully in my notes. And the other was the DApp Radar charts, which I'd been looking at every day for like a year. And they were the three chains that were just persistently at the top, mainly because of Splinterlands, Alien Worlds. What was that BSC game? It was Bomb something. There was a BSC game that did really, really well. Again, well, you could argue I wasn't wrong, because if you look at DApp Radar, Hive and WAX are still there. Yeah. Let's I think on DApp Radar.
Just with that in mind, I think or at least what I consider to be a blockchain game or quote unquote a good blockchain game, or an actual blockchain game, has changed drastically in the past year. I mean, for example, if you're going to class Alien Worlds as a game, I probably would have done this time last year. I probably wouldn't now. I've gone much closer to what you would call a game. So, your Gods Unchained, your Skyweavers, your Afterland on WAX, your Forge Arena, your actual gameplay experiences, if you see what I mean, and away from clickers. And I think it's been interesting this year to see kind of the fall in part of terms such as play to earn, which is a term you don't hear anywhere near as much now as you did 12 months ago.
Yeah, so two things. I just opened up Radar to check what the current positions are. So for the last 30 days, it's WAX and Binance Smart Chain is number one, Alien Worlds. Yep. Benji Bananas, Ethereum and Polygon.
Okay.
Sorry, still recovering from COVID. And 3 is Hive and WAX. Then 4 Flow, 5 EOS, and 6 WAX. So, I don't know. I wasn't that far off base with that. But that really is just because it mimicked last year, rather than some innate genius in me. As for the play to earn, we shouldn't have, do you know what? I thought this earlier. Why are we drinking on such a depressing episode? We should have been drinking next week when we're like doing a recap and talking about the year. Anyway, we can drink on both. Play to earn, yeah. So it was heartwarming because of COVID and the Philippines. Yes. That was really the flagship story. Leah Callum Butler, which I was talking about the documentary. I think I've written about this. I think I've even written something about this for you as well. It set the wrong tone for blockchain gaming.
Absolutely.
As great as it was, it set the wrong tone, and it put people's focus on the wrong things, which I now think, as a silver lining of this bear market, has been corrected. I think that now the focus is on creating a great game, not play to earn, because partly because you can't earn right now. You could if you invested enough, but it's very, very hard to earn the sort of money you did a year ago. A year ago, you probably could earn 10, 50, 100x what you can now.
Yep.
So play to earn died a death because of that. But also a lot of the projects, I mentioned this in the episode, actually. I say that we haven't had long enough to develop good games, which is true and still true, but we are starting to see them come out now. Like some of the gameplay demos, pre-alpha gameplay demos that I've been looking at in the last week. Oh, mate. They are actually worthy of AAA title. They aren't necessarily indicative of the game being necessarily good going forward. So I don't know if you've seen Star Citizen's little mini game pre-alpha. There's not much to it. It's a bit confusing. I love, they sent me the press release, and I think it looks like it's going to be a very strong game, and undeniably the graphics are incredible. And the game looks amazing, but it was can I find the email? I don't want to shame them here, but it's the things they suggested that you're going to be able to do, was depressing. I can't find it, but they said, join with your friends and play hide and seek in the space base. And I was like, what? Is that a game mode, or are you just telling us to run around in a small area? But it looks good. The games we always mention, like Shrapnel and so on, they're all starting to look fantastic and playable big time. Obviously, there's a lot of movement in that area, but play to earn isn't one of them. That has reclined to a fully laying position. That's
a good thing. It's undoubtedly a good, because it turns the conversation from, oh, you can earn $50 a day doing this, to you just own your items and can trade them with people.
Yeah.
Like you might earn pennies for doing it, but you can do it, and you have the freedom to use your items however you like to, which is really what we want the selling point to be.
Yeah. So, what I think people are getting at with play and earn is that you can earn by playing. One thing I think playing to earn could be rebranded as is, esports and tournaments and rewarding skill, which I would like to see. I think, that is roughly where it will go. So I think it will still exist, but the whole play to earn, like playing a game just to earn money, I think it has to require skill, not just investment and time.
Yep.
And then it didn't, which, we were very positive about play to earn, perhaps naively, and we didn't really see the problems it was going to cause going forwards.
No. And I think we'll touch more on this next week, but we are starting to see the first couple of games come through that are skill-based, play and earn-esque mechanics. So you've got Immortal, you've got the Forge Arena that's a bit like that, I suppose, and you've got your Shrapnels and your Metal Core, and that one from the Far Cry developers that's just been announced, Angelic, coming to IMX.
Yeah.
Which is, these are the games we want to see. And I've always, or especially lately, I've always said it's more about showing people why they should care about Web3 and NFTs and blockchain gaming, rather than just telling them they can own things. And I think, I don't want to make... Do I want to make a prediction? I guess I kind of did last year.
We're going to make predictions at the end of this episode, whether you like it or not.
Well, I think we'll probably revisit this towards the end of the episode, but I'd like to think, and I know I said this at the end of last year, but I'd like to think we'll start seeing throughout 2023 the first crop of... there might not be games that hold up to, the latest Need for Speed or whatever, but games that are approaching a level where the traditional gamers are going to look at them and think, oh, I want to, that game looks interesting. Like, I don't really care if it's got Web3 elements in it. It's just, that's a cool game and I want to try it out. And then they'll get into all this blockchain tech that we know and love.
That's just to add to that, actually, I was thinking about this a lot lately. I think one of the problems is that currently even, play to earn games and blockchain games, the attraction to traditional gamers has been, so if they're anti-crypto, they're going to look at this game and go, oh, it's a crypto game.
Yep.
And it looks press marker. I'm not going to play it. Now, there's two problems there. One, they're looking at the game and they may still look at games for the next 5 years and be like, it's got blockchain, not using it. Got NFTs, not using it.
Yeah.
But they need to feel like they're missing out. And at the moment, they don't. Like,
no, they're definitely not.
They're like, oh, it's got an NFT, I'm not playing it. Also, it looks dreadful, so I don't care. Yeah. But if they're looking at that game and go, oh, wow, that looks right on my street. I love these sort of games. And then you're like, oh, it's got NFTs though. At least they've got to make a decision. Like, you know, so at the moment, I think you can be on that anti-NFT horse without any sort of downside. You may have missed out on making money in the early days, but I mean, do you really? I mean, it is annoying, you know, that you perhaps missed out on making money, but it feels like a very separate point.
Yeah. And what the bear market gives everyone in the space is a chance to, you know, reset, regroup, build, and then once the market does start moving again, people start paying more attention, show that Web3 is more than just clickers and crap art and you know, everything else that the industry has been demonized for up to this point. There's something
we did talk about art a bit.
We did a bit. I suppose we will. I'll touch on that very briefly. I suppose it's more for next week. You know, we've seen the all-time highs for Bored Apes and Punks and any blue chip absolutely fall through the floor. I mean, if you go look at the price of like Cool Cats this time last year and compare it to now, you're down like, it's got to be 90% easily.
Really?
And, you know, Bored Apes and Punks and things haven't fallen that far, but they've, in USD terms, have fallen drastically. I mean, we saw the news reports of Justin Bieber's NFTs now worth,
mate,
5k or something ridiculous. But that's not to say that these, especially Yuga Labs with Other Side, which is the Bored Apes metaverse, have done kind of stress tests that show they are building some really cool stuff in future. I mean, you've got to do a lot more than create, you know, and really guided instance to make a good game. But that test that I think it was July, August time where they invited, it was like 3,000, 4,000 people into a server and like, hey, here's a test for what Other Side's going to be like. It's like, okay, you're actually building something pretty cool. And from a technical level, very interesting as well. So the
company behind that, they can do 10,000 players concurrently in the same server in the same space. And they, I don't have the exact number in front of me, so I'm going off memory, but I'm pretty sure they said something like they reckon they can 200x that with the technology they're doing. And I mean, they've already done more than anyone's ever done by a long shot and proven it. Like, not just said it, they've proven it. So that's very, very cool. And then Yuga Labs have obviously just hired ex-COO and president of Activision Blizzard, Daniel Allegra, who... I mean, that is one hell of an acquisition, because a lot of people, I think, including maybe me on one of our earlier podcasts, said that my fear, they kept talking about gamifying Other Side and making games, but they had no one in their team that had any gaming background. And I was a little bit worried how they were going to execute it. But yeah, I mean, the president, and not just regional president, the president and COO of Activision Blizzard for the last 2 or 3 years, has left to join in Q1. He's going to join Yuga Labs. So as CEO. So, Other Side is looking very interesting. That's, very cool. We didn't really talk about metaverse projects in our predictions.
Because they didn't really exist.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Is that new an addition? I mean, I remember saying that Q1 2021 felt like 10 years ago or 3 years ago or something like that, didn't I? Because the space moves so quickly. But I don't remember when that became a term.
No, it's not something I've really thought about too much, actually, in the lead up to this episode. But I suppose that is one thing that has grown a lot this year, is just the whole concept of a metaverse. Whether it's because Meta are doing weird things with VR headsets, or, you know, there's new projects coming about. It seems like there's been a lot more interest in that space for sure. I mean, we've seen platforms like Spatial come to the fore. We've seen, I think, the Sandbox is in its 3rd season, 4th season, something like that. And of course, they've been partnering with everyone under the sun. I've not heard as much from Decentraland lately, but they're still ticking along.
The only time I've seen anything from Decentraland directly was when they were rebutting the stats about the number of players they have. That's the only time I've seen anything from them. But
it wasn't the best press.
No, it didn't do brilliant. But I think most blockchain games would be uncomfortable releasing their player numbers right now.
Yeah,
a lot of them. I mean, there's no point softening the blow here. A lot of them were bots trying to make money, and a lot of them were people trying to make money. And now neither of those can make money. You're left with just the players.
Yeah,
and a lot of the games are just not enjoyable without the prospect of making money. So
yeah. I mean, I've been obviously the Atomic Hub have partnered with the Mutable X, will be incorporating their things in Q1. But what it has done has turned a lot of people's eyes from the games that are available on WAX, which I think I could safely say very few people in the Atomic Hub team played or were enthusiastic about within our channels, being like, hey, play this with me kind of thing. And then, we've started moving and playing games of Gods Unchained with people and looking into Immortal and things. And now we're like, we can get like an internal company Gods Unchained tournament going, and we can do all these fun things that we actually, really get us enthused about the future of the space. And I mean, you can count the number of good blockchain games that are out now on one hand, but
near enough.
They're getting better, and there's more coming along the way.
Yeah.
So, and the good thing again about the bear is that a lot of the speculators have disappeared, and the only people really left in the space are the ones that either have long-term faith in the tech or are keeping an eye on the games and think, you know what, I still actually like the concept of being able to own my items, and there's a few games coming where I think that could be meaningful. So
there's also no rug pulls because there's
very
nothing.
Few rug
there's
pulls. Nothing
to put on your rug. You wouldn't be pulling anything away of value. The rug pulls have fallen off a cliff. We have to talk about Farmers World because I was having my lunch listening to it, and I nearly choked on my sandwich when I heard that someone bought a Farmers World Gold member for $186,000. I want to pour some of my drink out for the person that did that. I hope you're still with us, because that is the most horrendous loss. I mean, Farmers World is still like 5th. Where's that radar? 6th on that radar. But have they released anything in?
As far as I'm aware, they've been silent for the best part of this year.
Well, I mean, they were silent for months. If they have, they were still silent for months and months and months of this year, when people were like, hey, there's rumors you're a rug pull. We're trying to find out who the company is behind this game, and it's really difficult and weird. Can you please just, say something? And there was just never, we didn't hear anything.
I know they were de-verified on Atomic Hub a long time ago now.
That was met with a friendly, warm response on Twitter, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. But that leads us into another one of the predictions we made last year.
No more.
Which was, will we see our first project to have total volume of 1 billion wax? And we both said, yes, of course.
1 billion wax, I mean, is possible. It obviously didn't happen, but 1 billion wax, given the price, is not that unthinkable. I mean, how much has Alien Worlds done?
Well, it's currently at 444 mil.
We're not miles off that.
At the time we recorded last year, I think it was at 365 mil. And it had done that in the space of a few months. So we were thinking, if that continues to grow, then,
Alien Worlds,
not unreasonable.
So you're talking about wax, right? Not dollars.
Yeah, 1 billion wax.
Yeah, but the 400 million or whatever you just said.
Yeah, 444 million is what Farmers World is currently on.
Farmers World or Alien World?
Farmers World, sorry. Yes, Farmers World.
Wow, really? What, in wax?
Yes.
440 million wax?
Yep.
Damn. I mean, they're still...
an all-time high last year. That's an unspeakable amount of 9-figure USD volume.
Just wriggling onto the Forbes list. Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
So have they been doing anything. We're doing this live.
I'm not actively following farmers. I don't think many people are, but I mean, it's not.
Well, I didn't. I found them a bit strange, and then they stopped answering questions from the community. Okay, they haven't done a blog post since the 30th of May.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable.
And I'm pretty sure that one. I'm pretty sure that one was along the lines of, it's difficult times at the moment with what's going on in Ukraine, but we'll get back to you soon, kind of thing. And
it's just farmer coin. So they used to do a monthly report. Their last monthly report was the 28th of February, which is almost perfectly in line with the bear market starting.
Dear me.
I don't like that. That's we were kind of indifferent about Farmers World. Obviously, the game didn't really appeal to us. It struck me as like a Facebook game that my mum might play. No disrespect to my mum. And now I feel I don't know if it's coming. I'm coming off the back of COVID. I haven't had much sleep.
Sure.
My baby's been ill. I'm drinking rum in the middle of the day. It's dark times, but I feel jaded. I do feel pretty jaded after this year has been rough. We've been taking hits, but then I was sitting in the shower and I was thinking, if the prices were standing in the shower, just to be clear. Okay. I have fully functional legs. I was standing in the shower and I was giving myself a r/shower thoughts, and I was thinking about Token Gamer and me as a whole, and then me independently. If you took away price, if you decoupled my progress and Token Gamer's progress from the price of crypto and how much money we make from our crypto, we've had such a good year. We've had such a good year. We've had an incredible year. And if you had told me on that last pod, hey, Rob, I visited you in December 2022 and I know everything you did and everything Token Gamer did. Here's what it is. I would have all over myself, marker, in excitement, because we've done so much stuff and I'm really proud of what we've done, but it's so, it's just sullied by the price and the negativity and FTX and Luna and Three Arrows Capital, and there's just been there's been so many things that have happened this year that it feels like it's been a dreadful year, and we were wrong about everything, and maybe we're wrong about everything forever, and the world's ending. But I guess that's it. I've hit the nail on the head at the start. There's a decoupling of price and progress.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice little sound bite. Get Jens to cut that. There's been a decoupling from price and progress, and we've seen a lot of the latter and almost none of the former. Yeah,
no, there's been a tremendous amount of progress in Web3 as a whole this year, whether it's NFTs, whether it's art, whether it's blockchain games, metaverses, whatever you name. But the price is not reflective of that, and the price is what people tend to latch on.
Of course.
And not just media as well. Obviously, people that made or thought they'd made a lot of money November last year who now don't have anything. Are you aware of what's that YouTuber? Boogie2988?
No.
Who he put a lot of his money into. He's a relatively well-known YouTuber, but he put a lot of his money in crypto just before the all-time high last year, and then made a video around that time being like, I'm rich, I have so much money, which a bit of a crass thing to do, and then put a video out I think 2 months ago being like, I'm broke, I need your help. Which was like, man, no,
the highs and lows.
Yeah,
I mean that JJ, I can never remember his the guy that boxed Logan Paul, he's got the Prime drink, KSI. Yeah, I can never remember the full channel name. KSIODG. Yeah. Oh, well done. Very nice. I can never remember it all, and I don't want to get it wrong. Did you just spill your drink everywhere?
No, I nearly did.
Okay, good. He lost a ton on Luna, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He lost a load of money on Luna. It's these stories are just so brutal because, I mean, I was going to rant at this earlier when you said about Justin Bieber's Bored Ape. I've said this. This might be the third or fourth podcast in a row I've said this, but people just keep comparing the all-time high to the low, the current low, and it's just, I mean, why? What does that That doesn't really tell you anything. The all-time high is not the value. The all-time high is almost always, unless you're on a real heavy incline, the all-time high is not the value of something. It's just the end point for the hype and the interest around that thing. So comparing the all-time high to like the current lows is just, it looks horrendous. But also, if he doesn't sell it, he hasn't lost anything. And I can't see Bored Apes and CryptoPunks particularly. I can't see them just dropping off to zero. I mean, this could be one of those things. Next year, if we're still doing this podcast, maybe we're just redundant and we're back to working at a checkout. But next year, I can't see Bored Apes being zero, or CryptoPunks being zero, because they have so much cultural relevance that I almost can't see them ever falling away.
I think both Punks and Apes have got that kind of all-time blue chip status now. In that, if crypto as an industry survives, they will always be there or thereabouts, in the similar way that Bitcoin is.
Yeah.
They won't go to zero, but I also don't think they'll hit or return to their all-time highs.
No, I can't see
anytime soon. It's not going to happen. And I mean, who knows? Predicting the markets is impossible, and if you could do it, you'd make a lot of money. But we can't, so we won't.
We provably can't. We're one of the few people that can prove that we can't predict it.
Going back to those predictions and speaking on money terms, of course, the highest sale on the WAXP blockchain last year was a piece of Splinterland. It was a Splinterland's land region claim.
Yeah,
which went for $695,000.
But is it this month or the end of last month? I wrote the article that they can now. It's only now that they can actually redeem that claim token.
Yes.
Imagine buying a semi-detached 4-bed in Surrey and not being able to use it. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
No. You make a good point, actually. So yes, the highest sale was $695,000. And we asked the question, will the highest sale of 2022 be above that number? We both said yes. Rob, you said it would be about 6 million and it would be land for a new game. And I said it would be, I didn't give an exact number, but I did say 8 figures.
I'm glad I was the lower one for once.
And I think that was, again, going off the back of, we'd seen art go for $70 million, and we'd seen various, we'd seen Punks and Apes go for many millions. In fairness, we've still seen Punks and Apes go for many millions this year, but that's besides the point. And there was this, probably erroneously, the feeling when we did the episode last year that lines can only go up. It's only going to get better. And of course, the nature of markets, the nature of crypto, the nature of any financial market is there's ups and downs. And we were absolutely, or are absolutely right now in a downturn.
Yeah, I just looked up what the most expensive this year is, and it's 23.7 million, which, I mean, that's still a hell of a lot of money, but it was in February. So, I mean, they've got to feel bad about that purchase for sure.
I mean, just to put it into perspective, with that highest sale being $695,000, we do our top 5 sales on the WAXP blockchain every month, and I'm fairly sure for the past 2 months it's been like $3,000.
$3,000?
Yeah, around there. So, I mean, that's not even a 99% dip. That's a 99.5% dip.
There's a lot of numbers after that 99,
Of course, it fluctuates, month to month, depending on what's going on, but...
What's the highest sale on WAX this year? How wrong were we?
That is a good question, and it's one that I have not actually looked up.
I've not looked it up, but I have the things to check, as you do. So
let's load up.
Let us find out.
Let's load this up.
How wrong we were. Because I worry this episode will come across like we're just trying to explain away how wrong we were about stuff. But we did have good evidence for the direction we were going. And I think what I overvalued was the mainstream adoption. I thought that would raise the floor, which it did. It has raised the floor. But I thought it would raise the floor much, much higher than it did. And I also didn't factor in at least 3 catastrophic events that would detonate the industry.
Yeah, I don't think any of us could have predicted that. Have you managed to get the number up on...
No.
No, neither have I. Actually... Funnily enough, it's been another Splinterlands land region claim.
Okay. Good for them.
It went for $219,000 US, so it's not actually as bad as I thought it was going to be, actually.
No, all right, we'll take that.
We did... The second place is also a land region claim. That's at $99K. Third place is a legendary blockchain brawler.
Which you, is it?
I'll be on this list somewhere. Which went for $44,700.
Damn.
Now, I'm not going to say whether that was a good or a bad. Oh Christ! Somebody did buy Farmers World Gold member for $31K as well
this year. What do you get for that? I don't even know what you get for that.
I have no idea.
I remember. It was this time last year. It was last December. I was saying to you, how are you going to explain to your family around the Christmas table your purchase of a blockchain brawler?
It's a very good question.
It's significantly harder this year to explain that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it on the... It's not going to be that far away on the list here. It'll be... No.
Did you buy it this year?
Yeah, it was bought this year. I think it was around February, I want to say.
Oh, maybe it wasn't the Christmas table then. I remember making that
here
joke.
It is. What number is it? I purchased the 156th most expensive NFT on Wax this year.
Oh, that's a bit of a... You're top 200.
Yeah, it's still... I still don't want to look at that number. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, I mean, that's just indicative of kind of the hope we had for this year and how that's... And nobody knew how long the bear market was going to be. I think that's the main point here. And nobody can predict it, and nobody can say, "Oh, we're going to come back next month." But
on that note, it's time to make predictions.
Yeah, it is. Do we want to revisit some of our questions from last year? I think that would make it easier. So obviously, the first one we covered in this episode was the price of wax. So. December 2021, we was at 45 cents. December 2022, we're at 5 cents. Where do you think the price will be December 23?
God, I don't know of anything that indicates a price rise that much, but I do think that is too low.
Okay.
Oh, God. I hope I'm not wrong this time. I think we're in a bear market for years.
Mm-hmm.
I think this bear market, there's things you can't predict. The major events we saw in 2021 and 2022, we saw major positive events and we've seen major negative events. You can't predict those. 2023 will have major events, market moving events, the size that we've seen in the last 2 years.
Okay.
Whether they're positive or negative, I don't know. I imagine, if I had to guess, I think your favourite word, regulation, is going to have a real role in 2023. But who knows? Yep. I'm going to say 10 cents.
Interesting.
Go on.
Okay, well, I see we're being a lot more realistic than we were last year. Well, a lot more
Well, I'm a lot
careful.
More
a lot more careful. Yeah,
I'm a lot more sad than I was last year.
I think that's fair. I don't know if I can be... Oh. See, I'm not really sure. I'm around the same ballpark, but I don't know whether to go higher or lower. Do you know what? Let's be positive. Let's say 12.
12? Let's be positive.
If it was 12, that's still a 240% increase on its current price. So...
Yeah, I don't look at it. I do think 4.7 cents is just too low for a chain that, we've talked about this a lot. The hardware, both of our companies that we work for and with and are block producers for Wax blockchain, so we are biased on that. But the blockchain itself, technologically, wow, that rum got in the way of that word. That rum added like 2 syllables to that word. Technologically, it's a great chain. There's a lot The technology behind it is very, very good, and it has never gone down like some of the other chains. It's proven its worth at very high stress, lots of transactions, zero gas fees. It's more or less instant. I think there's a ton of stuff that prove that it's a very, very good chain. And for that reason, I do think that 4.7 cents is really just a reaction to the market. Everyone's down very, very low at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I hope, even though I think we're in a bear market for years, I'd still like to see everything rise a little bit. This time next year, I would hope. I don't think we'll have risen much, but I think that as the market as a whole rises a little bit, we will see the returns in WAX. So, I think 10 cents is probably fair.
Yeah, I think it's a sensible prediction based on.
But there is nothing. Is there anything you can think of that's coming that's like, oh yeah, that's going to be a big moment for WAX? Like. Because there's tons of stuff on other chains, like Immutable X, there's tons of great games that are coming.
Yeah.
Like tons.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Polygon, I mean, I've lost count of how many projects, and not just gaming, games, music, movies.
Starbucks, Reddit. Happened this year.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that next week for sure. Like Polygon have killed it, and they've got this huge team, and they're expanding in all directions. There's a lot of reason to believe Polygon will go up. This is exactly what I was doing last year. And it doesn't necessarily work, but I'm just going off evidence. So off this year alone, Polygon's done a lot. Immutable X have got a lot of reasons to be excited for next year. Solana's obviously worrying. There's more rumors about them than you want. Although they've got some great games and they've got Fractal, I'm a little bit worried about that chain. So who knows where that will go. But I can't think of anything for WAX that's like, other than the technology. There's no like, do you know what I mean? There's
which is unfortunate because we this time last year we were like, oh, we've got this BSC bridge coming, we've got WAX Game Studios is kicking up, of course now Tyranno Studios, and they're doing a few things, and there seemed like there's so much in the pipelines, and it's difficult this year to be like, okay, there's always rumblings. We've got things like Avalon, which are coming. We've got supposedly the MMO version of Castles, which is coming. We've got Afterland, which if you've not checked Afterland out, definitely give that a shot. It's like Borderlands. So there's cool things around, but it seems as there's less, and it might just be because the market's not as good and there just seems to be less people around, but there doesn't seem to be as much hype at the moment.
No, but this is what I'm saying.
A good thing. Isn't always a good thing anyway.
100%, I agree. But then we can name all these cool things that Polygon and Immutable X particularly have coming. I can't think of much that WAX has as coming that's of a, that is a really big deal. I mean, Avalon, as I've said to the CEO, that game's too ambitious. If he pulls it off, then that will be a very important moment for him and WAX. But it's so ambitious. I don't know how he's going to manage it. There's no bankers. There's no Starbucks. There's no Reddit. That's what I would want to boost my number from 10 cents to 20, 30, 40. Yeah. I want to see things that are going to happen next year that will affect that, because as I say, the bear market's going to be a long one.
Yeah, their roadmap, the newly published roadmap looked promising. However, did come off the back of them cutting like 20% of their staff, which
isn't uncommon in crypto right now.
No, it's not uncommon in crypto. There's very few companies in Web3 that are continuing to hire.
Yeah.
Atomic Hub is one of them. Polygon's another. IMX is another. There's a lot of larger companies that are, but a lot of the ones that, let's say, weren't as responsible in a fiduciary sense or don't have that much kind of legway in what they're doing are falling by the wayside, and that is playing on my mind as well, which just kind of lead me into the next prediction question. Is we're currently at 13 million wallets. We're at 10 million this time last year. How many wallets do you think we'll have by the end of 23?
I think 15 million.
Okay.
I think we're going to see a continued slow, unless there's some massive project, could be art, could be game, could be music, unless something major happens on Wax in the next year that brings in it gives a reason for people to create Wax wallets. I think you'll just see the general incline we've seen this year as a result of past projects and general interest. So I'm going to say 15 million. You?
Okay. I think I'm going to be a little more hopeful. I'll put 17. The only real reason for that is obviously Atomic Hub partnering with IMX, and hopefully that'll bring some people from both sides to check out each other's chains, so there'll be a bit more credence there. But we'll see. That is more of a rise than there was this year, which, again, let's see.
Well, never know.
But yeah, again, we'll never know. We both said last year we would see our first 1 million Wax, or 1 billion Wax project. Do you think we'll see one by this time next year?
No.
I think that's a clean no for both of us.
Okay.
Yeah, quite an interesting one actually. What do you think in USD terms? What do you think the most expensive NFT sale will be on Wax in 2023?
I think we should do Wax and non-Wax.
Okay.
Because also we were Wax lyrical this time last year.
Yes,
and now we're we've spread our wings and we want to include all the chains. So Wax, I think the top sale will be $30,000.
Wow, that is.
I'm going low because there has to. I can't see anything. I can't see anything that's going to rake in a huge fee at the moment.
Okay.
While we're in a bear market, few people want to be as speculative as they were in 2021. And I can't see any projects that people would want to be mega speculative about. There are a few things that could do really well, but can they do really well despite a bear market? That's a big question. And so I'm going to say 30,000 for Wax, and I'm going to say 750,000 for overall. Okay. I really think we've missed I think the peak has gone. But I expect if I was going to be massively wrong about either of those two, and let's be honest, track record now says I am going to be massively wrong. I would say the non-Wax, like the overall highest selling NFT, I think 750,000 is obviously not very much compared to the last few years. Mm-hmm. I think the only way that will be absolutely blown out of the water is if something non-art related happens that is really, really interesting. I cannot see people spending millions and millions. I know this is a clip in a year. I know this is a clip. I know we're going to say this, but I cannot see an art project selling for 23 million again in 2023. I can't see it. I think we've missed that boat now. That boat has sailed. And now something with major utility, which, can I just throw in there? Major utility has this higher ceiling than art in some ways.
Yeah.
Because it can return money in more ways than one. It's not just hype based or interest based. You could have something that has utility in which you earn from it, or it gives you access to things. So, I certainly could be wrong about that, but, there we go. So 30,000 for Wax and 750,000 overall. Go for it. What's yours?
Okay, cool. So, looking at the rankings this year, the top sales on Wax were dominated by Splinterlands, Farmer's World, which is obviously not going to be the case moving forward, and Blockchain Brawlers, which, I mean, I hope I'm wrong in terms of my own NFT, but I don't think the other NFTs will be heading in that kind of direction either. I'm going to say 25.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it's another Splinterlands or Alien Worlds NFT.
I think, so Alien Worlds is exactly what I was thinking. If Alien Worlds comes up with more innovation and they release something really expensive but that's really innovative, I think they could capture. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Alien Worlds could be the difference maker.
Interesting. And then for the highest sale NFT on all blockchains,
this is such a blind guess. This one.
I'm gonna go very different to where you've said. I'm gonna say 5 mil.
Okay. Yeah.
The reason I'm not saying it's definitely going to be an ape or something ape related, but I reckon something's going to happen. So, that sounds very strange to someone who's not in Web3. I think just because of everything Yuga Labs is doing, and I know they're under investigation supposedly by the SEC at the moment, but with everything that's going on with Other Side and with kind of the continued popping up in pop culture of Bored Apes as well, you know, with Eminem and with Snoop Dogg and with their new CEO, I can't see... I mean, this is obviously going to be for a Grail ape. I don't think it's going to be an average price for an ape. I think there will be a Grail ape still sell for that high value.
Yeah, so I don't think... I thought about doing the millions. I was very close to doing millions as well, based on Other Side and Bored Apes. It's just whether... we haven't really entered the recession properly yet. So I think 2023 is going to be really quite awful in like the financial terms of the year. And I don't know how many people would sell in that market because they know how much they would have lost. But then if you need to recoup money, you need to recoup money. There's nothing you can do about it. So I think you're probably more likely to be right than me on that one. But I'm just conscious that we haven't really reached the bottom of the financial world as we know it. I think we're still on a downward slide.
Yep.
And I don't know how long that's going to last. So if it lasted the entire 2023, where we're just constantly on a downward slide, I think the numbers are going to be really depressingly low. So
let's hope not.
I'd rather be wrong that direction this time.
Yeah.
Maybe this is how it's going to go. And then December 2023, I'm going to make wildly high predictions again that are going to be wrong in 2024. Maybe this is, I'm just going to need to flip it. Maybe this year I need to make really optimistic stuff, and then next year make. But anyway, what's the next question?
We'll see. Well, I've got two more. I don't know if you've got any more you'd want to add in. But I've got two that are a bit off the cuff. They're not really wax related, but I think they're interesting questions nevertheless.
Okay.
The first is being, do you think we will see another, and I've worded this vaguely intentionally, another major collapse, whether that's a blockchain, whether that's another centralized exchange, whether it's, do you think we'll see another kind of catastrophic, oh my God, people have lost ridiculous amounts of money?
Yeah. I think we'll see at least one more. Maybe more. Please don't be Binance. What about you?
I think it's exactly the same. Yeah, I'd say yes. And again, I think there'll be at least one. We haven't, worryingly, we've not heard of a major hack in a while. So I think it almost feels like we're overdue.
Well, it's just not as worthwhile as it was, is it? Good luck getting 625 million out of the Ronin bridge at the moment.
Yeah. And then also, of course, there's, I mean, a lot of it is termed FUD, but there's a lot of rumours going around about various other orgs. So, yes, I agree with you. And then the final one for me is, this couldn't be a more me question if I tried. Do you think we'll see major regulation having a major impact on crypto in the US or the EU in 23?
US, I'm going to say... I don't know how long it takes to get through regulation on a very new industry. We are 100% we're going to see movement on it. Whether it all goes through, I don't really know. I don't know how long it takes in the US. I don't really know how long it takes in the UK. It's usually everything seems very slow in the UK, but I would say yes. I say we definitely it may not all come through, but we're going to see, I think off the back of FTX, they now are under pressure. They have to do something.
Yep.
They have to make a move now. What about you?
US, again, because of FTX, definitely. And in the EU, I know a bit more about this than I probably should, but I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Just because I'm aware of some things that are in European Parliament at the moment. So, so that's all of my questions. So we've done the price of WAX, we've done the number of wallets, we've done the first 1 billion WAX project, highest sale on WAX, highest sale across all chains, major collapse, and then major regulation. And do you have anything you'd want to ask as well?
I'm going to freestyle a question or two.
Sure.
One, what area of crypto will see the most growth, and I don't mean that necessarily in price, adoption, use, whatever. What we'll see, what area? So, gaming, music, art, finance, DeFi.
Gaming, 100%.
Gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably explain my answer more than that, but with everything that's happening on IMX and Polygon, I think it seems inevitable it's going to be gaming, surely. Yeah.
The problem with freestyling questions is I haven't got an answer lined up, but I would say utility certainly is going to be, I think that's the next big wave. We saw ICOs, initial coin offerings, and then we saw NFTs. I think now it's going to be sort of the utility of blockchain. I think that will be the next major wave. Whether that happens in 2023, I don't know. But in terms of the next year, I think gaming's probably the safest bet on evidence. So I think I'm just going to agree with you. Gaming. The thing is, you can never predict the wild cards. That it could be something like music, but there would need to be a wild card. There would need to be an unpredicted event.
I would be super surprised if it's music, just because I know we've just seen Legend partner with Polygon and Warner Music, but I think, we saw Kings of Leon do their album, we saw a few other artists do it, and I think it was a very short term fad that unless there's like fundamental changes in the way people consume music, nothing is going to change. Like I can't see people all of a sudden leaving Spotify or Apple Music to come to some new Web3 platform for whatever reason. No,
there'd have to be something new. I think gaming has the most evidence, so I think that's fair.
Yep.
Okay, let's ask the opposite. What do you think is going to see the biggest decline in relevance, in growth, in value?
I have an interesting answer to this. I think this is not to say I think all art projects are dead. I think artists with niche communities that have people that really like their work are always going to find an audience. I think if we haven't already, I think we are going to see the death of the generative PFP collections.
Please.
They're just done.
Yeah, I hate them. So
I think the reason for this primarily is because we've seen so many of them that come out with a 0.08 ETH mint price. As soon as the mint happens, it immediately collapses to like 0.91, and then people are just wondering, well, what do I get for this? What utility do I get for this? And this counts for some projects that I'm still holding. Like, so I still hold a Littles NFT that just tried to sell me a hoodie for $100 something, which was a joke. Starcatchers, which having the same sort of issues with merch. Deadfellas is doing pretty well in that respect because I managed to partner with Steve Aoki. But yeah, I think people are just done with these PFP collections that promise them the world, and then their utility is 5% off a merch drop.
Yeah, wonderful.
I don't think people care anymore. What about you?
Generative art, 100%. That could just be wishful thinking, because I'd like to, and I'm not, as you know, I'm not anti-art.
No.
I'd like to see real artists benefiting from it. Photographers, painters, digital artists. No, oh god, that's. But I'm generative is so boring. I'm sick of it. I'm sick to death of it. But genuine art, I hope rises. But I think the biggest decline is either going to be art, NFTs.
Yep.
Or if I'm going to make a really bold assumption, I think you're going to start to see a lot of altcoins fall away. I think you're going to see a lot of ecosystems just collapse, but not in like a really grand way. I think they're just going to fizzle, and their users will go elsewhere. Their community will just die out. I think you're just going to start to see the slow decay of a lot of altcoins that they don't have the money anymore to keep pushing.
It's interesting,
and they just fall away.
To kind of add on to that, it's obviously the whole Robinhood, GME, Stonks saga was a while ago now. But amazing, still, if you go to the Immutable subreddit, anytime anyone mentions the GameStop marketplace, there's still a lot of crypto Andes, let's call them, just praising GME and thinking they're the next best thing. And, you know, it's hard to think that the communities built around Dogecoin and Shiba Inu will just evaporate into thin air, but I do think they'll start to thin out. Like, if the money's not there and the prices aren't rising, then what's the point spending 6 hours a day on Twitter tweeting Shiba Inu to the moon, rocket, 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 fire, fire, fire? Like,
well, I mean, Elon has the power to ruin us here by integrating it into Twitter or something mad. But,
they're apparently thinking about a Twitter coin as well. So.
Well, exactly. So it's hard to say on that front. Yeah, I think so. Altcoins and art. Can you think of any other questions that we want to be wrong about in a year?
Do you think we'll see our first proper kind of AAA Web3 game that isn't a card game?
We're meant to. AAA is such a horrible term.
Yeah, it's an awful term.
And you can just, it's who decided you could just apply it to yourself?
See, it originally meant large, expensive games from the biggest publishers, and then people who worked at those studios and then started making their own, that phrase got applied to them. So, AAA developers are building this new game. It's like, what?
Yeah.
That's just so conflated.
But I guess it's a little bit like the word handsome. You can call yourself handsome. There's nothing against it. There's no. I can say I'm a handsome man to anyone I want. It doesn't make it true, but no one can stop me. I can say whatever I want, and that's what AAA is. It's just people saying, oh yeah, or you know, they've worked on a AAA game, like you said, like the AAA devs. Well, okay, that doesn't mean there's going to be a AAA car. You could have worked for Bugatti and build a go-kart. It's not going to be a Bugatti, is it?
We've seen this happen with a lot of things outside Web3 as well. It's like, ex-Google employee starts this, and it turns out they were a cleaner or like an entry-level dev or something. And it's
I mean, you've definitely got to do your research. Although the flip side of that is a lot of talent has come over to work in Web3, which is positive, a very positive sign. Again, we'll talk about this next week. As for, is there going to be a massive? I think the question should be, if you probably intended it as this, but I'm just going to change it slightly. Mm-hmm. I think the question should be, is there going to be a game that gets genuinely popular?
Okay.
I don't mean like top 10 of Twitch necessarily, but gets a strong player base. 2023, no. 2024, yes. Would be my answer.
Okay. I can't remember whether it's earlier in this podcast or if it's somebody else I've spoken to who I basically answered this exact same question to. I agree that 2023 won't be the year. I think for a game to come out that will blow everything out the water and bring all these traditional gamers across to Web3 games, or that, you know, strange obsession we have with that kind of onboarding topic, then I think we're looking at not 2023, we're looking beyond then. But it partly depends on upcoming games from big name studios and what their plans are. Like, there's been no end of rumors that GTA 6 might have crypto in it.
I deep dived that. It's too vague. It's in that leaked document, and they mention a cryptocurrency, but what you can't tell is if this. So I wrote an article on this, and I found it almost impossible to express this point because it's very, very difficult to say.
Yep.
I don't know whether it's an actual cryptocurrency or something in the game, an in-game currency that's called a cryptocurrency because cryptocurrencies are relevant, but it's nothing to do with blockchain. It's just called a cryptocurrency in-game.
Yeah, you kind of have, I'm not sure if this is in the base GTA 5 build, but at least in NoPixel and some of the RP servers, you have fake cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it could be that. That I think that's a very good point. I also think while you were talking, I don't know, I can't remember what it was you said that triggered this, but I think one of the issues with getting mainstream adoption is that people are just trying to create games of genres that are currently successful and then just putting blockchain in them. Whereas I think they need to innovate, use blockchain to come up with a new idea or even a new twist on something. Don't just create battle royales and the same copy-paste MMOs and put blockchain in it, because I don't think that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to bring this up, but because this is someone I've spoken to in person. Oh, God. But I was at an event earlier this year, and this guy, I'd just done a speech on stage, and this guy came up to me afterwards. I was like, "Oh, hey, I want to tell you about my project." I was like, "Okay, cool, go for it." And literally the first words out of his mouth were, "Oh, it's League of Legends with blockchain." I was like, "Oh, Christ." Right, okay.
Well, there's about 50 of those right now.
And it's not to say that one of them might change the game and, you know, become this huge new title that gamers love around the way. It's so unlikely.
Well, it's like the reason people can't kill WoW is because WoW's had 20 years of developing its game.
People always seem to think MMOs are really easy to develop as well.
They're so expensive and so difficult. I don't get the allure of them. Like, if you get it right, yes, well done, you're on the cover of Forbes.
Yeah.
But the chances of you getting it right seem so slim. And there's been amazing MMOs that I've enjoyed so much. Guild Wars 2, I loved. I love Final Fantasy. I loved
MMOs. Do you know what I saw an advert for yesterday? EVE Online. Of all things.
Legend.
So that's still going strong, supposedly.
I'm hearing rumours about EVE Online. I'm not going to talk about them, but I'm hearing rumours. And I'm just saying, EVE Online, if you're listening, listen to any episode at random and I will have talked about you. So draft me in, coach. But yeah, like, there's been loads of great MMOs, but then they fall away because it's so hard to make. And there's been loads of great MOBAs. They fall away because they just can't compete with League of Legends, and it's 15 to 20 year life cycle that it's just been iterating on its own idea and refining. And people will say, oh, it's rubbish compared to the old one. Like, people say classic WoW was great and new WoW is rubbish. They're just very different. But the problem is the gamers are very different now, and they expect different things, and they're more demanding over certain areas, and they're unwilling to do certain things for stupid amounts of time. And you're just gonna, I don't think just augmenting blockchain into an old idea is enough to get that mainstream adoption. I think you need to do something. You can just do a twist. Like, one of my favorite games for just doing a little twist on an idea is Hunt Showdown. Funnily enough, my dad loves that game. Just absolutely plays it every day. He loves it. It's quite strange that it's just resonated with him. But they just took a survival kind of game and then they put a little twist on it and then they executed it perfectly. Like, the sound engineers on that game honestly deserve Oscars. That it's beautifully crafted, in how important sound is. You can hear like a twig crack. It's crazy. So you have to be really careful about being heard and things. There's loads of cool stuff. So what we need is someone to do something innovative with blockchain. Stop just using blockchain. Oh, well, you can own this item. Well, if they thought they owned it before, they're not going to care that they now own it. Like, it just doesn't, it's not going to resonate, is it? You need to do something novel and innovative. And I think the best chance of that is someone like Alien Worlds or Alien Worlds Consulting on some project and being like, what if you did a DAO, like, you know, like they've been doing.
They've got a card game coming.
Oh, stop. Come on. I love Alien Worlds. Like, their team, honestly, they're so important to this industry, but can people just relax on card games? Yes, they're easy to make. Like,
which is the only reason people
cheap
are doing
and quick to make.
Yeah.
That's why there's been so many. Like, I looked at at my awards last year, which I'm doing again. But my awards for last year's games, and a lot of the games were card games, and it's not that card games aren't fun, and it's not that you can't make a great card game. It's just that it's been done now, and now you've got to compete with Gods Unchained, Skyweaver. Just, unless it's part of a larger story, which we're starting to see a lot of, where people are building multiple games in the same ecosystem, as a way of introducing interoperability, in its fetal stages. And I think it could work in that. So I've counted my own point there, really, because Alien Worlds are doing it as part of a larger thing. But, yeah, that's not the one. That's not what's going to get the mainstream adoption.
If you think of every game that has not come from a major publisher, that has seen incredible success over the last decade, it's been your Hotline Miamis, your Shovel Knights, your what's Stanley Parable, and just things that are unique and very different and unusual, and you need something of that level of intrigue that will capture an audience to think, okay, you know, blockchain can be good for something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we agree on that. I don't think I have any other questions, and the timer is just running. It's just running.
Yeah, and we've conveniently done 10 questions, so I feel like we should we should call it there. But man, this has been our longest episode for a while. Well, I think it's warranted to go over both our terrible predictions from last year.
Terrible predictions for this year.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, hey, we'll come back 12 months from now and see how right or wrong we were. I mean, I think it's important to know, just before we wrap this episode up, but that by the time when we recorded our 2021 predictions episode, Twitter didn't have verified profile pictures yet. No,
we talk about that.
Yeah, Jack Dorsey had just left Twitter, and you know, about 2-3 weeks after that, 5 to 6 weeks after that, we had NFT profile pictures that blew up this year. I think it's safe to say we've both become much more chain agnostic this year. I think you were already much more chain agnostic than me anyway, but especially on NFT Insider, we cover a lot more than just Wax now. So there's been a lot of change that was unexpected. So,
you know what we should just add at the end, just for next year. So I'm putting in really work for next year is current prices at the time of recording this. So Bitcoin is $16,678. Wax is $0.047. Ethereum is $1,191. Gala, I'm going to throw it in there, is $0.01.
That was less than Wax. Interesting.
Who else do we want?
IMX, Polygon.
Yeah. Hang on, my list has run out.
Let's go CoinMarketCap. Let's go.
IMX is $0.42.
That seems quite... I think that's an all-time low, but it's still pretty decent, I feel. And then Matic... oh, no, not My Master War, whatever that is.
Matic is 0.77.
77, okay.
All right. The BNB as well is 242. I always forget how high that is.
Do we want to give predictions on any of these? I mean, we've already done Wax.
No.
Or do you just want... Okay.
I don't want to be wrong like 9 times in a row. That's for sure.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know where those were this time last year off the top of my head. But
no.
Bitcoin was, I think, above 40k. I think ETH was above 4.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll see this time next year.
Good fun.
But anyway, that has been episode 50.
Oh, 50, yeah, we haven't said that, have
50 episodes of this podcast.
And that Spotify Wrapped thing you sent me with all our stats and stuff.
Crazy.
Some really positive, I'm going to pull them up right now, some really positive stuff. Like, we were in the top 15% most followed podcasts, which is crazy. We're listened to by 35 different countries. We created 2,875 minutes of content.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot. We were in the top 15% most shared. We have 62. This is really low as a number, but I still love it. We have 62 people who have us as their number 1 most listened podcast, which
that's crazy.
It's so low, 62. It's a horribly low number, but you 62 people, because you're almost definitely going to listen to this. Just please reach out to us, because they don't know there's 62.
No, but hey, you know, come into the Token Game Discord, the NFT Insider Discord. That was one that really stuck out for me, because I don't know if everyone else is the same, but you know, I listen to more than one podcast. But that strikes to me that people are listening to our podcast every week, and might not listen to many others, which is crazy.
It's amazing that we're essentially their favorite. Yeah, well, I love that. So I just wanted to recap that, because that's really cool and really motivating. Because I imagine if you did that last year after 6 episodes, we wouldn't have had 62 listeners. Genuinely, no. I'm not sure we would have had 62 listeners. No. So
we've seen pretty good growth this year as well, and I mean, we'll go over this in the next episode, I think. But to everyone who's still listening to this podcast an hour and a half into it, thank you very much. Thank you for sticking around this year. And yeah, we will have a lot more coming up for you guys next year as well. But there we go. Episode 50 of the Mint One podcast is in the books. Rob, where can we find you?
So, looking at camera with, I think I've had like 4 rums at this point. So I'm a little bit blurry. I don't drink that much anymore. So that gets to me. Okay, so for more incorrect predictions, please come over to tokengamer.io for daily blockchain gaming news and everything in the surrounding ecosystem. Then at Token Gamer News on Twitter, where we will tweet most of our articles and bits and pieces that we see and some general opinions. And then find us on LinkedIn. I've been enjoying LinkedIn lately for Web3. So we are on LinkedIn. Just type in Token Gamer. You should find us. If you're working in Web3, you can try and add me, Robert Baggs. I say try and add me because I reject so many people who aren't working in the space, and I don't know why they want me. But if you are working in the space, I always want to connect with people in the space. And then twitch.tv/Token Gamer. That is twice weekly stream with Super Dope. Always playing blockchain games. Been playing Warsaken lately. He played the Illuvium beta, which actually looked amazing. I was really impressed with that. That's everything I can think of. Over to you, John.
Yeah, you forgot to mention your backwards headset.
Nope, not mentioning that. This is front facing.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the latest NFT news, you can head to nftinsider.io. Lots of fun stuff, interviews, reviews. I just chatted to Console. I'm not sure if you checked out Console yet. Rob, it purports to be the Discord killer, and not gonna lie, from the early things that I've seen of it, it looks very promising indeed. So you can look at NFT Insider for that. nftinsider_io for our socials. Fun stuff, fun questions. We're always asking for you guys' thoughts as well, so head over there for that. Me personally, it's at Hydropowered, HYDROPWRD on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, BeReal, TikTok. Probably some others as well. Twitter is the best one for daily tweets, GNs, all that good stuff. And I believe that is it from me. Should have a few videos coming out in the next few weeks as well, so keep an eye out for that. But that's it from me.
I've got hiccups like a cartoon drunk.
I'm not surprised after 4
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. That was such a long episode.
Yeah, we haven't done an hour and a half episode in a very long. This is probably going to be our longest episode, I would have thought.
No one's listening at this point, so I'm going to say F you for bringing up the headset. When I went to Tokyo, I lost my Bluetooth dongle, which connected my nice headset. So now I'm using a gaming headset, but I didn't want to look like I'm using a gaming headset on the podcast. So how do you hide that? So we put the mic up, but then you turn it around and you've got the same issue because the mic's still there. So it still looks like a gaming headset. But if you do that, turn the mic on again. How do I do it? We're good. It just looks like a normal headset. So, John for outing me, but, another marker. But yeah.
You've also conveniently given me the timestamp for when you were wearing your headset the right way around, so I can stick it into the thumbnail.
Well, anyway. we will argue about this off air. Let's take this off air.
Okay, thank you very much for watching, everybody, to episode 50 of the Mint One podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe would be fantastic, and Spotify and Apple, a 5-star podcast review would be great. I think we've got 13 5-star reviews on Spotify, which is crazy.
We averaged 5 out of 5, which is difficult to fault.
Thank you so much. And yeah, follow us on Twitter at Mint1Pod for things. I'll probably be sharing some of that Spotify wrapped stats on that Twitter. So yeah, look out for that. And there we go. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have a very Merry Christmas, and we will see you again next week.